June 3rd Town Board meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Understand we have,
Mr. Chair, we have 4 additions and 1 point of clarification added with your supplemental information. We'd like to add under consent 5D, Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission 2018 financial report. Added agenda item 9A, sprinkler regulation change requests. 9B, request for tent use within the township. Then I've got an other, just a water gremlin update that I'd like to provide the board. We can do that last.
what, 9C?
Yeah, let's do 9C. And then just point of clarification under revised consent agenda item 5A to read as follows. In your packet, you have the information for this, but it is not noted on your revised consent agenda. 5A should also have point 4 for Benson Airport as part of the archery deer hunt in 2019.
Got that, Scott?
I do.
Okay. Is that it, Pat?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hearing that, do I have a motion to amend the agenda, or to approve it as amended?
I will move to approve the agenda as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Item number 3 is approval of payment of the bills.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Item number 4, I need approval of the minutes from the May 20th, 2019 Town Board meeting. Any changes, additions, deletions?
I saw none. Move to approve.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, item number 5, consent agenda. Scott, you want to do that for us?
Okay, item 5A, 2019 archery deer hunt. Approve the 2019 Ramsey County Cooperative Deer Management Implementation Program in the following areas of White Bear Township. 1, Tamarack Nature Center on October 28th through the 30th and November 18th through the 20th. Item 2, Otter Lake Regional Park on October 11th through the 13th and November 1st through the 3rd. Item 3, Poplar Lake County Park on October 11th through the 13th and November 1st through the 3rd. And item 4, Benson Airport on October 11th through the 13th and November 1st through the 3rd. Item 5B, mooring requests. In accordance with the Portland Avenue mooring fees policy, approve the mooring request for the 2019 boating season, June 1st, 2019 through October 1st, 2019, for 5373 and 5406 Portland Avenue. Item 5C, fourth quarter financial report, receive. And item 5D, the Ramsey County Suburban Cable Commission 2018 financial report. Based on the Finance Officer review and recommendation, receive and accept the Ramsey Washington Suburban Cable Commission's 2018 annual financial report. Did I get all of it?
You sure did.
Okay. I will look for, I'm proposing all these, submitting all these for approval.
Second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion carries. Item number 6, we have old business. We have none, so we'll move on to item 7. Our first public hearing is a conditional use permit request. This is 3 Oaks of White Bear Township to allow modification of landscape plan. This is a public hearing, so I'll need a motion to waive the reading, noting it's been properly published.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And then I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Tom, all yours.
Okay, this is part of the 3 Oaks development off of Centerville Road, north of County Road H2, that was approved by the town in 2018. They have come to us with a request to modify the landscaping plan that was approved, and that's shown on the screen here. Primarily, they would like to have some modifications to the southerly portion of the property along the border here. North Oaks Company has been working with the property owners in here to modify the landscaping plan. And they've come up with a proposal. There were some existing trees in this area that were planned to be saved, as well as in this area here. These have all been removed, and this is a newly proposed landscaping plan. Extends down the property line right here. And then this was a grove of oak trees that had, more had planned to be saved, but many of them were removed due to a pretty steep grade change there. So this project was received town approval of a conditional use permit again last year. They are looking at a modification to the landscaping plan, which requires approval of a new conditional use permit. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission at their meeting in May, and the conditional use permit was recommended for approval as shown here.
Tom, offhand, do you know the number change from the original plan to how many trees are now in this plan?
Quantity I don't have. Gary, do you have that?
Well, we'll get to them in a second. Steve, you got any other questions of Tom?
Well, it's not necessarily I guess it is if time. You know, the landscaping, obviously, what is left of existing trees along the south side? The south border? Nothing. Okay. So we don't have to worry about them dying then. So we're losing, I guess my question, Tom, is, what's the time frame of this, of a landscaping plan like this? What are reference me in time? How long they get to do this? I'm looking for viability. I don't want to start landscaping project and then not, you know, that's the end of it, and it's not living up to the bargain, because it is an awful open area to the south. So what's the contingencies? Can we talk about?
You know, I don't know if we approved an actual time frame, but this portion of it I would anticipate to be constructed as soon as possible now that it's ready to go. Additional landscaping comes when the individual units are built, so there's a landscaping plan for the individual units. But this is a buffer plan along here, so this can be planted at any time.
So to the east end, that's buffer landscaping?
Yeah, there's a buffer between the new property or new development here and the existing properties south of there.
And then there's a retaining wall in the...
There was a retaining wall in the original plan that has been taken out. So this was a location of the retaining wall right here.
So
Okay, according to Gary, it was moved to the west, although it's not shown on this.
So
Yeah,
there
it
is going to be
shown
some...
right here, so this is the area of the retaining wall along here. And this is where there's a fairly steep drop-off between this property and the Three Oaks property.
We'll get you in a second, Jake.
Yeah.
Scott, you got anything?
No.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Larry, you want to come up and give us your take on this change before I open up to the public?
North Oaks Company, the developer of the Three Oaks project. The original intent was to screen all the properties to the south with existing trees to the east and west end of the properties. Meeting with the easterly property owner, trees on our property were diseased, so we made a decision to remove all those trees and then replace them with the new buffer landscape plan. The trees to the west were intended to save as many oaks as we could. With the size of the units that the builders proposed, that was going to be very difficult. We've made an attempt to screen what we could with the boulder wall in place, and we'll see what oak trees we can save. If they can't be saved, we'll replace them as part of the landscape plan, the new landscape plan. Most of the underbrush is buckthorn, which I think would be desirable to move and replace. We hope to have all that done by fall.
Do you know if, were those oak trees, was the drip line disturbed with that retaining
Yes.
wall? So the odds of them surviving are...
If they don't survive, we'll take them down and replace with as big as we can.
And then you have any other landscaping plan at the bottom end of the retaining wall? or
That
not?
would be on the individual lots.
Okay.
Well, when you say on the individual lot, so that's, whose responsibility?
This will be an association, so those replacements and maintenance of those plantings would be for the association to manage. It'll be part of their budget.
So if they choose nothing, there's nothing.
Well, they still have to adhere to the landscape plan, sir.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Larry. All right, any other questions to Tom? All right, hearing none, I would look for a motion to open this up for public comment.
Move to open for public comment.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
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 I know we have some neighbors here, if you want to make a comment to this, please come up to the podium, state your name and your address.
Jake Walton, 5440 Centerville Road. I'm immediately next to that, the westerly 3 lots. I don't feel a lot of care was taken in saving those oak trees. They're very mature trees, they've been there for years, and Mr. Eagles just stated that he was out of town when it happened. So, you know, that's pretty easy to say. I just wish a little more care would have been taken to preserve those mature trees, and I don't feel North Oaks did their due diligence to make sure that happened. So now they're proposing just to take them down and replace them with, I'm sure, much smaller trees. I don't think we'll ever see oaks of that size there again. I'd like to see them, it's only 3 that are left.
But now, Jake, those oaks are on North Oaks Company property though, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But in the original plan,
Yep,
it
right.
called for them to stay for the original conditional use permit, right?
Yep.
In that plan, they were proposed to stay. And I understand it is on their property and they can do with their property what they will, but it was a conditional use permit, right? So that's what we're here talking about, and I just feel like they should have given that a little bit more thought. You know, they went in and wiped it all out, and then they came back and wiped some more out. I just happened to stop home that day when they were taking the rest of the trees down and exposing the roots and cutting out some more for the retaining wall. So it wasn't like they did it upon their original excavation. Just feels kind of sneaky and underhanded. So,
Well, I know you met out there a couple times with Gary.
Mhm.
Have you talked about any other mature trees being planted, or the plan is to wait to see if those survive?
well, their original concern was to take those trees down, just so there's no,
Immediately do it?
just take it down now and put back in something as big as they can. Well, I feel like, you know, the trees deserve a chance, you know? See if they'll live. I mean, it's only 3 oaks. My concern is that they do die, and then they're not gonna be able to get back in there with the other plantings
And
to
I
replace them.
think that's something we can add to their conditional
yeah.
use permit, to make sure that they
Yeah.
at least stand behind
So-
those, but. What I'm getting at is, are you comfortable with them doing anything else?
I'd like to see it stretched further to the east. You see there's nothing behind that third house? That's wide open.
Lot 3?
Yeah. It just stopped it just stops there. I'm not sure why, because there used to be, you know, that was all sumacs and brush. So, I mean, there's no screening there. I'd like to see that carried to the east, you know. Cover the back of that lot as well. I don't know, it's just a huge change from what was there. My property value went up $40,000 this year, and we lost all those mature trees. I'm not quite sure how that works.
So did mine.
I know,
Full disclosure, I'm also a neighbor here, so
right.
I won't be voting on this.
So I think it'd be nice to see North Oaks held accountable and and, you know, give us some decent buffer there. Give us some decent trees. That's what we're used to.
So, Mr. Chair, after we hear the residents, can Gary come up and see if he can address any of these? before
Yeah, but
we
back
discuss
to
it?
Jake, do
Yeah.
you have an idea or a plan in mind what you'd like to see?
I'd like to see those 3 oaks given a chance.
But I mean, anything
Yes, sir, Ray?
over and above that, that's supplementary trees for now.
I'd like to see that solid trees all the way across there. You know what? I know leaving the 3 oaks is tricky because then any trees you put in there are gonna have to be like underbrush
Right.
to them.
Or you'll lose them when you go to take the other ones out.
Right. So it kind of puts us in a bad spot. You know, do you go ahead and just take them down and then put in as large a trees as they can? I guess I'd like to know what that looks like. The pictures that Gary has presented us are from the north side, from the North Oak side, which really doesn't do its justice from our side.
Right.
You know, I think any of the trees we could get planted up on the high side of that hill would be beneficial to both properties, you know, the houses on the north and my property, our property. It's just, we're accustomed to having those big oaks there for so many years, and it just kind of, it sucks seeing them go. I mean, they don't grow overnight. So I think they call it 3 oaks because there's only 3 left on that entire property.
Well, there's the 3 on the other end down by the,
That's the 3 I'm talking about. So, I don't think they had much regard for the,
should we call it 6 oaks maybe?
I don't know. But I'd like to see it stretch further, to the east to buffer that other lot as well, the 3rd lot. And I understand what he's saying about the buckthorn. I agree with that. That's all underbrush, scrub brush, but those big oaks, they deserve a chance. They should have been given more respect when they went in there and did their excavating.
Unfortunately, we've seen this happen before in the township.
Yep.
The cottages was a prime example. That we
Sure.
lost some big mature trees that they were supposed to go around and they just went right down the middle, so.
Yeah,
I know, it's,
so the guy running the machine isn't accountable, right?
like I said, it's their
So,
trees, so if they
who-
ruin them.
Who should be accountable in that case?
All we can do is have the developer make up for what inconvenience you guys have suffered.
That's all I'd like to see happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Leif Eischen, 5451 Peterson Road. I'm the property adjacent to the southeast corner of the development. I have 2 concerns. I see there are little flags in the ground where I'm told there will be trees, but we're already getting pretty far into the planting season. So are there any assurances that when they put in the trees in the heat of July or whenever they get there, that if they die, they'll be replaced? So I'm assuming there's going to be high stress for these new, especially the deciduous trees, which have already leafed out. The evergreens, I understand, not so much. So that's my major concern is I see some potential trees not living, and do we have any assurances that they'll be replaced?
Tom, does it state in the conditional use permit that they're required to, I don't know if it gives a time length on how long they have to make sure the trees survive?
Yeah, they're supposed to be maintained by the association to eternity. If they die, they need to be
Indefinitely, right,
replaced.
That's what my assumption.
Yeah,
I-
'cause it's-
Well, I happened to speak to the guy that was out there looking to put the flags in and plant the trees, and I know he's a little concerned that it's gotten late in the season too, but we take our chances. This
Okay.
obviously didn't help having this thing get pushed back, because that was kind of critical timing, and with the ground being so wet that,
I understand we've had a wet spring and all. I just wanted to voice that concern. My other concern is we were assured there would be no construction traffic on our tiny little gravel road. Well, I've documented plenty, especially last Friday, there was 4 big triple axle trucks that came down, all trying to turn around. I made sure one of them did not turn around and crack my concrete driveway. I know one of them did mess up Ed's driveway pretty bad.
Yeah, it used to be all concrete, now it's all dirt. They really messed it up.
So, I don't know, there's a great big orange sign that says no construction traffic, so I don't understand
Trust
what
me,
else we can
I
do.
yelled plenty at that
Okay.
that cement truck driver, but they're just, I know.
Thank you,
This is-
voicing my
oh.
concerns.
All right, anyone else? Kenny? Speak your piece and run.
Denny Peterson, 5474 Peterson Road. I can't remember everything. I wish, one thing we should do off what we're talking about, we got to get a speaker system in here. I got hearing aids, I ain't hearing nothing, but, okay. I thought North Oak said they were going to plant hundreds of trees, I thought, on that south side because they had access to a nursery of some sort, of their own nursery. Now, I'm getting old, I might not caught all that, but I thought there was going to be tons of trees there. Actually, there's probably, along Peterson Road right now, I think they've planted 10 pine trees. I didn't even ask for pine trees. I'm getting pine trees, and Jake could probably use pine trees. But I mean, I know North Oaks has got money, and they got trees, so it's a good development. I mean, I've lived there a long time, so I knew someday it would go this way, but they're doing a good job, but I think you probably could take care of the people on the south side and give them some trees, like, because I'm thinking all that dead space there on Tommy, on that other one, that was gonna be all trees, to my knowledge,
Yep, good portion of it.
and now it's wide open. So I would think even if you put it on, like on Leaf, if you put it on people that already live there, if you planted trees on their property, they'd probably be letting you do that and be happy with it. But, what else now that I'm up here? So is there anything planned for, I suppose they can't plant anything by the swamp area? Is that gonna be untouchable, or is that?
That's really wet down there, but I had your same concern because maybe I just heard something different, but I even put Gary on the spot and asked him, the original plan showed 54 trees. And I didn't count shrubs, I don't believe, but it was 54 trees. And I thought it was a lot more than that, too. So that's why I'm curious to see, with all these changes, what that count went up to.
Right. Because I'm pretty sure when him and his partner were talking about, they were talking about trees up and down that whole south side, so. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. All right, anyone else? Going once, going twice? All right, well, that's for a motion to close the public portion?
I don't have Gary talk or nothing.
Oh, yeah, we can do that, well, maybe just in case. Yeah, Gary, I just got a couple questions for you if you want to come back up. Talking about the number, did you actually take a new count of what you were going to, after this plan?
Change the types of landscaping. The original landscaping was mostly higher trees. We went to more of a layered, so we have shrubs along with the higher deciduous and coniferous trees.
But that's along.
So the number is more, but different types.
But that's more along Leaf's area?
Pretty much both ends.
Because it's hard to tell, especially for my view. It looks like it's got a little sparse there. I know when we walked it,
When you look at the topography of what's there, in the middle, it's a high berm and higher trees to the south. These units will sit below that berm, so any screening trees I would able to do wouldn't really affect anything, they'd be too low.
okay.
So that's why we decided, once the grading was done, it became obvious that any screening trees in the middle weren't going to serve any purpose. There will be trees on individual lots, but those are going to be at an elevation probably 7, 8 feet below what the top of that fence line is to the south.
But I'm still confused. Are you saying the tree count stayed the same, just the lower shrubs count went up?
We didn't have any shrubs on the first plan.
Okay,
We just had ornamental trees and deciduous.
all right.
So, the.
We're going to try and save the 3 oak trees by Jake. That's our goal. If they don't make it, we'll replace them with whatever we can that would be significant as we can fit in there.
Well, one of the other suggestions that he had was a little further to the east.
Yes.
Is that possible? Or is that-
Again, that's where
again,
this-
that's where it starts to,
That's where the slope enters in, and we'll get it as far over as we can. We're willing to work with the neighbors. That's the whole commitment here is, once the units are built, it's a lot easier to see what is the more beneficial screening. Now, we've got a unit built on the west end, so it's pretty good now to see what the visual impacts will be.
But are you gonna have a problem once the units are in there to get back there for bigger trees?
Well, that is the issue with trying to save those big oaks. If we do plant around them, it's going to restrict what we can get in and out of there,
Because I
so.
know it's, even now, it's awful wet back there.
Well, we're pretty high and dry.
No,
on
I'm
that.
talking about along me or Leafs, just for planting at trees, because it's muddy.
It's going to be workable. And what gets planted this spring versus what gets planted fall, just on what the condition of the trees are, will be the determining factor when we finish. I'd like to get it all done as soon as possible, but there comes a point in time when it's going to be stressful for the plantings, and they probably wouldn't make it anyway, so.
What, any
Have a
idea?
one-year warranty from the provider on all trees, and like I said, the homeowners association will be responsible for long-term maintenance.
Well, but that always
Yeah.
makes me nervous, because they come and go.
yes, I was gonna say, that makes me nervous also, because they come and they go, just as he said.
Well, we're going to fund them fairly substantially to start with.
Well, that's where I was going, is that a year is not that long for having any type of
One-
screening. I just want to make sure we've got some money set aside.
Sure.
This is not going to fall in a hole and have nothing there but dead shrubbery and dead trees.
Were we willing to bond the one-year warranty?
Or can you give me just kind of a status on, I saw there were 2 lots sold on the cul-de-sac.
Yes,
The one right next to me is sold, I believe.
yes,
What about the new one they got the foundation in, right next to Peterson Road?
that's sold,
Sold?
yes.
So you've got, what, 4 sold in there then?
Yes,
So we're plus the 2 models, that's 6, through 6 out of 28?
3 more are scheduled to start fairly soon.
All right. I'm just kind of curious to see how this, if this is going to be, if it's going to go as well as the pine tree one did, so. All
Well, I anticipate it will.
right, any other questions of Gary?
No.
Good.
Thank
All right, thank you. All right, last chance, any other comments? All right, motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Tom, under that conditional use permit, I don't have the, let's see here.
I don't think it's in here, is it?
Do we have the actual landscape wording?
Well, you would be adopting a plan and a plan date. So the landscaping plan that they had proposed is dated 5/14/19. And that's the plan I showed on the overhead.
Well, that one, according to my, looks like it's 42 trees and probably 70 smaller trees, shrubs. That sound about right?
Showing 42
Yep.
trees. Remainers are shrubs. Yeah, 66 shrubs, it looks like, and 42 trees.
Again, thought the last one was 54. Somehow it seems like we've lost trees here, 12 of them to be exact. You don't have that original one, do you?
I do, yep. 22, 36. Yeah, 58 on the original plan
58.
with no shrubs.
Well, me personally, I would like to see that 58 stay in place with the shrubs. Steve, that's up with you.
I'm going with more trees personally. I think that's a great accommodation. I understand the retaining wall piece, and I don't know if the residents are that keen over it, but it makes sense if it's a high wall already, the trees aren't gonna help much, so. But.
My house is higher than I'm looking down.
You're looking down. But I think the idea here is that we're gonna try and save the oaks. Although, I think it's suspicious, but they're damaged. But I'm all for saving mature oak trees.
The roots were cut down to the trunk, you know, the outside ones. That's how severely they were damaged. It wasn't that they just encroached a little.
The problem with, and that is, I'm sure is a true statement, and that damage is done. So we've got to figure out what's the best solution going forward. The issue, as I see it, is if they're not gonna make it, and he puts more trees in front of it, you're gonna have access issues, just as they've said. Gary, I'll ask, has there been any arborists looked at those trees?
Yes.
Certified arborists, and what is the condition that they've told you? Is it viability of what?
Thinks we should give them a chance.
Okay, so the certified arborist says worth a chance. Well, having said that, I still think we should plant as many trees on there as originally proposed, if possible. And the other question that I know you said it's a 1-year guarantee on the plants and shrubs, but, and you say you're gonna have some, I guess I'd like to see or have it put in writing something so we know, we have some assurances that this stuff is gonna actually happen. Because our luck with homeowners associations are sketchy. Follow through.
Can I ask a question of Tom? Was that on our original bond?
I don't believe trees were covered under that, no.
So we would add a new bond to cover that? We're fine with that.
All right, so keeping the original tree count at 58 plus all the added shrubs, does that, I think then that gives them some flexibility for the neighbors too. If it looks like we can add and supplement some of those extra trees. Scott, you?
Fine.
Mr. Chair, I think you also have to add a clause amending the bond to include true preservation, a warranty.
Yeah, I think that's what Gary had just said, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not part of the development agreement. You need to add that to your resolution.
All right,
To amend the bond?
To add to the bond, the tree warranty. Maybe you want to go beyond 1 year, too.
Well, I personally think, working with the tree trust, and they're doing multiple years, 3 years?
Yep.
3 years, which I think is about what should be acceptable, Gary, personally. We can, so we don't lose ground. I'd like to see a longer warranty. I don't know what.
are you formulating a motion?
I am, but I've got to see, I'd like to see 3 years, 1 year plus the two more. For plants and shrubs, trees and shrubs. And I'll make a motion to, how about I get back to what we actually have to say? Are we all done then? So,
Yep.
Based on, well, I guess it's based on the planning commission and staff review and recommendations, approve the conditional use permit and zoning certificate and requirements for 3 Oaks of White Bear Township to allow modifications to the landscaping plan to add to the bond, the tree and shrub warranty of an additional 2 years, and adding a total of back to the original 58 trees, plus the shrubs. Is that,
That cover it?
I think I said a lot.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Let the record note I will abstain as affected property owner. All right, thanks, folks. All right, moving on. We have item number 7B, side yard setback variance request for 2630 South Shore Boulevard.
Okay,
This is also a public hearing, so I guess I'm going to need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll make a motion to waive that it was properly published and waive the reading.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Tom?
okay, property on the south side of White Bear Lake, south side of the township. This is South Shore Boulevard right here, Forest Court, and this is the property in question right here, 2630 South Shore Boulevard. It's a request for a couple of variances to construct a new garage. See in this aerial photo, this is a single-car garage that was tucked back into the southwest corner of the property here. That garage has been removed, and the property owner would like to construct a new 24 by 24 garage, requiring several variances. Originally, the request was for a 10-foot side yard setback variance from the south side that would bring a new garage and driveway right up to the property line. Again, the original request was a 5.2-foot side yard setback variance on this side, which would allow for a 1-foot side yard setback, and then an overall green area variance of 5% was requested. During review, well, the town requirements for a corner lot, 35 feet from a right-of-way. Two right-of-ways in this case here, both Forest Court and South Shore Boulevard. And then 10-foot side setbacks for a normal corner lot from each side and rear, but they're both called sides. In this case, it's an undersized lot of record. So the side yard setback along this side drops from a 10-foot requirement to a 6.19-foot side setback requirement, and that's based on the, again, the size or the width of the lot. When the variance board reviewed this, they recommended approval of variances. They recommended approval of a 7-foot side yard setback variance on the south side. That would push the garage 3 feet from the south line, as well as the driveway. A 3.19-foot side yard setback variance on the west side. That would leave it with a 3-foot side yard setback. And then also recommended approval of a 5% green area variance as requested. 30% is the maximum coverage permitted by the town. 35% is proposed, so that's a 5-foot variance. Planning Commission reviewed this in May. And they also recommended approval of a 7-foot side yard setback variance, but requested a 5-foot setback for the garage, and then a 3-foot setback for the driveway. On the west side, they recommended approval of a 3.19-foot side yard setback variance, same as the variance board, and then the Planning Commission also recommended approval of the green area variance, 5%, as requested. So this is laid out showing the recommendations of the Planning Commission. So 3-foot side setback, 5-foot side setback, driveway tapering down to 3 foot right here. Location of the garage as proposed, you can see it's over a portion of the former garage, but it is set back further from the lot lines than originally the original garage. So the variance is recommended for approval by the Variance Board and Planning Commission, as modified.
Tom, because this lot is undersized, was that green space calculated into that?
It doesn't make a difference.
It
It's
doesn't?
overall, 35% maximum coverage, or 30% maximum coverage for this property. You run into that with the undersized lots of record, the green area variances are more common with those.
Scott?
I don't know where to start with it. Just a lot of numbers. I'm just going to keep listening.
Well, it's always been town policy to allow a certain amount of variances to get people two-stall garages. I mean, we try to, these single stalls and small garages, they can't get all their stuff in them. So it, obviously, the township looks better when you have a little bit bigger garage with stuff put away. So we've been pretty flexible in that, but it seems like we just constantly battle this. I mean, these get excessive after a while, and our variances have been a lot lately, so I know we have to scrutinize these as much as we can.
So if I understand it right, it's a larger structure, but it's moving further away from the line, from the property line. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that does decrease, obviously, the discrepancy on the requirement for the variance anyway, but.
So it's still a variance, but it's not as bad of a variance?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, we always battle with the term reasonable use of the property. Because if you have a garage, that's reasonable use, you can use your garage. But like I said, we've always been pretty much proactive to try to get these small garages and ones that are in need of repair replaced with a two-stall garage. So I get that point. I don't know how hard you guys worked with the variance board or the planning commission, if this is absolutely the best they can do with it. I mean, I know you folks look at it a lot deeper than we do, so.
Yeah, the location was shifted around a little bit. One of the primary reasons why they're shoving it as far south as possible is the power pole right here.
You're right at the end of the driveway.
So trying to avoid the power pole with the driveway.
Were you at this?
I was at that planning, and that was the big consideration, is trying to give them some access and not have the power pole sitting right on top of what they need for driveways, but I think it's the best solution for the.
There was a comment that you had made earlier about, and I kind of lost track of which commission it was. One had approved it for a certain number of feet. Another commission suggested a different number of feet. I heard 2 feet and then 5 feet, and another one agreed. So what's the overall recommendation to the board?
From the planning commission, basically it's the same plan. The only change was the garage. The recommended setback by the planning commission was shifted 2 feet further towards the house, but allowing for the driveway to be a 3-foot setback. Yeah, so it's a 7-foot side setback for the driveway, but a 5-foot setback for the garage.
And what does that put for the distance between the garage and the house?
I don't see that dimension.
Well, I do know you have to be at least 6 feet, otherwise you have to fire rate the garage.
Oh, yeah, it'll be more than 6
Okay.
feet.
All right, any other questions of Tom? We'll get you in just in a second.
Okay, I don't know how to-
That's okay.
Okay.
You got anything else, Tom? Steve?
No.
All right, I'll look for a motion to open up the public comment portion.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, if you're the applicant, you can come on up.
Sorry, I
We have
don't
all
know how
these,
this works.
we have all these legal things we gotta do.
Oh, he's good, Nancy. Okay.
Just state your name and address, please.
My name is Marilyn Svay, and I live at 2630 South Shore Boulevard, White Bear Township. And I am just trying to put this garage up, and actually, I'm not sure this is going to be popular, but when I look at this, if you, I don't know if you can see it as well, but there is that green space, is that what they call that, Tom, between my garage and George? Okay. So the driveway is going in 3, but the garage is over 5. So the driveway's gonna come up, and I'm gonna have like a couple feet on the south side of my garage that's gonna be just nothing. He has 2 feet between my property line and his driveway. So we've got 7 feet of green space right there. And we're gonna have to take care of that somehow. I'm not sure what we can plant there, because you have to be 1.5 feet from each other's property line to plant anything. So my suggestion is, as long as the driveway is coming up 3 feet in, why couldn't the garage just be 3 feet and the driveway goes straight in? The other concern was safety and getting fire trucks through, or any kind of medical emergency. Where I have that key there, that's an empty lot. And so anybody could come in there, drive in, there's no issue. You can come straight up from South Shore. The home, we'll call it George's home. Next to me would be the one that would be at risk, and you can come straight up from South Shore to his home as well. So I don't think we're cramming it in where we can't get any kind of emergency vehicles through there. The concern with the electrical pole is in the winter, there are like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 5 driveways, 3 across from me, and everybody is plowing snow. It's forest. It's a very narrow, like one of our narrow roads that we all have. And it gets really tight. And so I think if I can fan it out at the end, I'm told. But once I get in, I think it would be aesthetically, I think, better looking, but I also think it would be easier to get in, to just get into the garage if you're just going straight in. Does that make sense? Would you like to see one of these? You guys
We've got
have
that.
these? Okay. And maybe I'm not hitting what your concerns are, but I just wanted to explain that.
All right, thank you.
Okay? Should I sit down, Tom?
Whatever you're most comfortable with.
Oh, that's just there.
All right, is there anyone else who'd like to comment on this proposal? All right, hearing none. I'll look for a motion to close the public portion.
So moved?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, Tom, anything to add? Steve, got any other questions?
The only, so, just so I was clear, what the planning commission and you discussed is exactly what you were just telling us here? Or did I miss
No.
something? No.
I'm moving it a little bit. There's 5 feet for the garage only. The driveway is already at 3 feet
At the,
from my property line.
got it.
The garage is 5 feet, which means the driveway is gonna come up and it's gonna have to curve to go in, because the garage is over 5 feet. George's driveway, from my property line to his driveway is 2 feet. So if my garage is over 5 feet, now we're at 7 feet for green space, is what I'm saying. And since the driveway's already been approved by one board, I'm wondering if the garage could be moved over 2 feet so that I could drive directly into my garage instead of having to come in and curve in. And it's a small area, so this is wasted land.
I believe that's where the various board and the planning commission are at odds.
Maybe. I thought about this after the meeting, I'm sorry, but there would still be 4 feet of green space all the way down.
So, Tom, right now, the request is 7-foot variance, so that's 5 feet out the building?
3 feet. Yeah, 7-foot variance is what the variance board recommended for both the driveway and the garage. The difference is the planning commission recommended shifting the garage 2 feet further from the lot line for a 5-foot garage variance.
All right, now I'm still,
No, I'm
All right, now I got everybody confused. Okay.
Sorry.
Planning commission recommended a 7-foot side setback for the driveway, 5 feet for the garage.
okay, that's what I'm going with.
Okay. The difference from the variance board review is the variance board recommended a 5-foot setback for both the garage and the driveway. Yeah, so making those 3 feet from the lot line.
Is that driveway's gonna be paved?
Yes.
Well, as a board, I tend to, obviously, take our commissioners and their recommendations quite seriously, so I don't know, Steve, what was your impression when they were going through this?
I think they were trying to make this work, and they thought they had some agreement, but obviously after the
Yeah.
fact, yeah.
I started thinking about it, and I was trying to see the reasoning behind moving the garage in 5 feet, but having the driveway only 3. That, after, you're sitting in a meeting and you're thinking, well, okay, and then you start thinking about that. So, what is the purpose of that?
Only because we view a building as a permanent structure, where the driveway can be moved if need be.
Yeah.
And my neighbors are not here, they were all in agreement as to a 1 foot, it being 1 foot from the property line, so. I just thought I'd ask because I was trying to figure out why that would be set up. I should have asked when I was up here.
There still may be some discussion as to where the structure actually is going to be. And so maybe that has to go back to, because I'm hearing 2 different things from different commissions and the property owner.
Well, the board has the right to do what they want, but
okay.
that kind
Didn't know.
of usurps what the planning commission really planned to do.
Okay.
And reluctantly, I don't want to do that. We have them for a purpose.
Yep.
So you're saying you are going to make a motion siding with the planning commission?
Yes,
Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted to hear, something.
yes, I'll move. Well, this thing says based on the variance board, where am I looking at this?
And planning commission.
Oh, it doesn't say, no, I must be on the
you're in
supplement.
the
I'm
supplement.
on the wrong, well, anyway. Based on the variance board, planning commission and staff review and recommendation, approve the 7-foot and 3.19 side yard setback variance to allow construction of a garage and driveway as laid out.
All right, motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, you got what the planning commission recommended. If you want to change that, you're going to have to come back to us.
Go back to them, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, there was also a request for a 5% green area variance.
I didn't see that.
And I'll amend my motion for the 5% green space variance that I guess the planner has noted.
Still okay with the second there,
I'll
Scott?
second that.
All right,
It's, yeah.
all right, moving on. Let's see, we got one in item 8. New business. We got Kent Jefferson, 514 something West Avenue, request for minor subdivision.
Okay, this is a property located in the Bald Eagle neighborhood. Okay, we have Stillwater Street up here. Ridgewood here. Ridgewood, Ridgeway. And Mr. Jefferson owns this property right here. Actually, back in 2003, he requested approval of a minor subdivision that would split this lot in 2 and also split off a chunk of the lot back here, which was sold to this property at 5154, squaring up this line here. Originally, it was shaped like this. So the town approved that in 2003. That transaction took place. But Mr. Jefferson never got to filing the subdivision here of this lot, which created 2 75-foot wide lots. Lots that are square footage of just over 20,000 square foot each. Town zoning requirements say minimum lot size, 12,000 square feet of area, minimum lot width, 80 feet for a new lot today. This total, the size of this particular lot is 150 feet wide by 269 feet deep, and the proposal is to split it right down the middle. It requires two 5-foot lot width variances, again, because the lots are proposed to be 75 feet in width, whereas the standard is 80 feet wide. But the lots as proposed far exceed the 12,000 square foot requirements. And again, this was approved by the town board in 2003. It just never filed, so it has to go through the subdivision process again because that approval has lapsed back then. So when this was approved, it was approved to subject to a number of requirements by the town, provision of 10-foot drainage and utility easements around the lot lines. Requirement that they add a 5-foot access easement. And that is for the property to the north. You can see the driveway encroaches onto the property a little bit here. Still the case as it was in 2003. So an easement was recommended at that time for access for that property owner over this property. Payment of part dedication fees. And then especially no additional variances would be approved by the town board for any new homes. So because it's an undersized lot, the home will have to be designed accordingly. It's important to note that this lot was assessed for 2 assessments back when utilities came through. And that was another reason why the town supported the subdivision back in '03. Several residents in attendance at the variance or the planning commission meeting. Most of their concerns were relative to drainage in the area. This is an area that does not have municipal storm sewer. Everything sheet flows either to the south towards the railroad tracks or further north here, south or to the north towards Bald Eagle Lake. It's pointed out also during the review process by the property owner to the rear that there's an existing fence and shed that's encroaching onto the Jefferson property there. And is aware of that and is willing to offer easements for that particular property owner to keep those there. So again, review by the Planning Commission and the Variance Board because of the lot width variances. Both recommended approval, subject to the same conditions of 2003. Submission of the 10-foot or inclusion of 10-foot drainage and utility easements, the 5-foot access easement for 5157 West Avenue, payment of park fee for subdivision, and no additional variances for any new homes.
Tom, did you, or actually Dale, are you familiar with that area?
Yeah.
I mean, the drainage there with 2 new houses put in there, is that gonna be an issue?
There is pretty flat, so there, and we don't have much for we don't have any storm in that area to connect to. So it's,
Would be a challenge.
yeah. I did suggest to Tom they look at some alternatives for maybe some on-site storage. For,
Is there room there for it?
I don't know. I don't know exactly if there is. I was just looking at Google Earth view here. Like, yeah.
Larry, you know anything about that area?
I don't.
I hate to see this get split up and a couple homes put in there, and we're gonna create some problems. This may have to be studied a little bit before the designs and the placement of the homes, and
We would recommend a grading plan as part of this proposal, and there's an opportunity for rain gardens here if that seems to be fitting
well,
to
that's a good option.
take care of some drainage concerns, at least hold it till it overflows.
Is the applicant here? Do you have anything to add?
No, not much from what
This isn't a
Tom
public
said.
hearing.
My name's Ken Jefferson. Couple things, when the gentleman that was most concerned about the drainage was over on Ridgewood, going east. I think, what, 3 houses down? Apparently, they have a pretty good problem down there, because it drains through between lots and going back towards the railroad tracks. On here, you got a couple things. One is the lots are big, they're 20,000 square feet. I don't think, like we talked about with a couple people there, you're not gonna obviously increase the drainage. The portion where there's hard surface might be a little quicker, and most of that's gonna go to West Avenue. With the size of the lots, there's more room to be able to deal with drainage. We didn't talk about this, I was talking about it with the neighbors. One thing here is the houses on both sides are back quite a ways. They're probably at 50, 70-foot setbacks. And normally, I would assume the township, it's 35 feet or in line.
Correct.
So if we're going that far back from the street versus being 30, 35 feet, that also gives area to help in drainage. I don't foresee, because there's such a big area, they had some problems on the west side off of Mead Road this summer, or last winter, the 5137. Something happened to his well, and it was pumping out an enormous amount of water. So she got flooded out and back a little bit. None of it got to the houses, but that was just free-flowing with, no control over it, so. With the size of the lots and it going to West Avenue, I think we can adjust to that.
What kind of soil's out there, do you know?
I think it's just clay sand. I don't think it's, it's not terrible, it's not clear sand, so.
You just mentioned a well. Isn't there sewer and water out there, Tom?
I don't know, he actually wasn't sure if he ever was hooked up to city water. He has city sewer, but he's still running on a well.
Okay.
And, and he's the gentleman to Stanton, the one on 5137, he's about 35 feet from the lot line. So his house is quite a bit south. If we were trying to squeeze into a little lot like North Oaks is trying to do, and might have problems, but with this much area in there, and like I said, being set back from the street, I wouldn't foresee any problems. There's some topography on there, and he shot enough so we can come up with a good drainage plan. So that's most, I've talked to a number of the neighbors, everybody seems to be okay. You got the opposite problem. These guys, everybody wanted to save the trees. Over here, I got neighbors saying, well, take that one down, it's gonna fall on my house, and take these old ones out, so. It's all in what you're working around. But we'd keep, certainly the back end of the lots, keep those in their natural state, so there's some privacy in there.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. You got any questions?
No.
Right. Thanks, sir.
Okay.
All right, any other questions of Tom? That, you okay? All right, looking for a motion to grant the lot minor subdivision?
I'll make that motion based on the variance board, planning commission, and staff review and recommendation, approve the minor subdivision with 2 5-foot lot width variances.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on, 8B, Rich and Kim Lucio, 5691 Orchard Avenue, request for another variance. Trying to squeeze a lot into the township these days.
Yeah. Okay. 5691 Orchard, Bald Eagle Lake here, obviously, Orchard Avenue in this area right here. Bald Eagle Open Space, owned by Ramsey County, is over here. And Lucio's would like to add a lakeside pool between their home and Bald Eagle Lake. It's proposed to be a 14-foot wide by 28-foot long pool. That's 392 square feet. They're requesting approval of a 10.4% green area variance and a 142 square foot lakeshore accessory structure size variance. Lakeshore properties, the maximum coverage permitted is 25% for lakeshore properties. They're proposing to exceed that by 10.4%. In addition, the town permits a one lakeshore accessory structure. This is consistent with DNR shoreline management requirements. That lakeshore accessory structure needs to be set back 10 feet from the lake. They're proposing to exceed that lakeshore accessory structure size with the pool, 392 square feet. So the difference is 142 square foot variance. Currently, the existing coverage on the lot is 46.9%. So in a couple of phases, what Lucio's are planning to do is to eliminate a lot of that hard surface and trade it for permeable pavers. You can see the driveway accessing the garage. This is on the street side. The sidewalk proposed to be replaced. All the area around the pool proposed to be permeable pavers. Existing fire pit is proposed to be removed, or there's a patio back there that's proposed to be removed that is hard surface also. With the changes, again, 46.9% now, changing everything to pavers, which we don't consider a permanent, or we still consider that a permeable surface, the coverage would be 35.4%. So that's the 10.4% variance requested for a green area. And then the other request for variance would be the 142 square foot lakeshore accessory structure variance, again, for just the pool itself. So reviewed by the Variance Board and Planning Commission, and both of those variances were recommended for approval.
Tom, is this precedent setting, or have we ever allowed that large of a variance over a lakeshore accessory? I'm afraid doing this, are we gonna have boathouses this big?
Boathouses are permitted up to 250 square feet in area. Yes, we had one other one up on Bald Eagle Point. It was actually a larger pool, but it was a larger property too. But that one did set the precedent.
Hey, what do you got?
I love pools.
Wow.
Oh, no, I listened to this at the planning commission, so.
That,
And you feel, I guess you listened to all the conversations there and all the back and forth.
Yes, they were pretty much unanimous except for one person who was philosophically against pools.
pools by the lake, or just
Pool
pools?
by the lake.
Was there a reason?
Pool by the lake.
She doesn't like lake pools. It's by the lake, there you go. I don't know, she didn't
So
say.
leaving the philosophical concerns to the side, there's variances that are being made. It looks like when the house was built, there were variances, and it is an undersized lot, but the commission's talked all through that, and I know that they've got a lot more expertise in that area.
Yeah, I think the variance board approved it first, and they were satisfied that it met the,
All right,
just for making this happen, so.
those were my questions.
Tom, that area over there, is that sewer and water?
Yes. Yes, all of this area is served by sewer and water.
All right, I personally, I get too close to the lake, but that's just me. I mean, we've had so many discussions about lakeshore properties and what you can do and can't do, and I know they're expensive, so I know everybody tries to fill up as much as they can on them. We've caught a lot of backlash from it also, so, but this is kind of a secluded area back there too. It's not like Hugo Road that kind of got out of control.
Yeah, and they're allowed a structure. It's just a matter of fitting it in there, and this qualifies as a
I just always worry every time you grant a variance, somebody's gonna come right behind it going, you gave that guy, and now it's a road we can't go back on. All right, any other discussion? Looking for motion?
Well, based on the variance board, planning commission, and staff review and recommendation, approve the 10.4% green area variance and the 142 square foot lakeshore accessory structure square footage variance for the construction of an in-ground pool at 5691 Orchard Avenue.
I'll second that.
Any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And motion carries. All right, item 8D, the White Bear Market Space.
C. I think we missed C.
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't want to do any more variances. All right, item C, Kevin and Julie Lunn, 5932 Hobie Lane.
Okay, Hobie Lane, also on Bald Eagle Lake, northerly portion. And what we've got here is a proposal for a 1,265 square foot garage to be attached. And that is proposed to replace a previously detached garage in this area right here that was 691 square feet. The detached garage was 17.5 feet from the Hobie Lane right-of-way. 35 feet is required in this zoning district. The new garage is proposed to be an attached garage. This was detached. Is proposed to be shifted a little bit further from right-of-way there with a proposed setback of 20.4 feet. And that requires a 14.6 foot setback variance. It's also the size is over 1,000 square feet. That's the town's maximum size for a garage or an accessory structure. There is a section of the ordinance which allows an exception to that for lots that exceed 22,000 square feet and have to be on a designated wetland area or Bald Eagle Lake or abutting county open space area. This lot is over 22,000 square feet. It does abut Bald Eagle Lake, and therefore the variance board, when they reviewed it, and the planning commission felt it qualified for to exceed that 1,000 square feet. That being the case, and I'll note one other thing, the 1265, 132 square feet of that is part of a mudroom, so it'll be part of the home itself rather than the garage, even though it's shown in the footprint of the garage there. So, variance board, planning commission both looked at these variances and recommended approval. Specifically, the right-of-way setback variance of 14.6 feet, and then secondly, that's not a variance, it's an exception to ordinance 8 as permitted by the ordinance to exceed the 1,000 square foot garage size requirement.
Tom, how much you say that mudroom was?
132.
That's actually a separate room in the garage then?
Yes.
So is there a reason why you're considering it garage? It's just part of the addition?
Shown on the footprint here, so that was a detail that they noted during the variance board.
Well, I was curious because then it wouldn't be as much of a variance if it was considered part of the addition, and we wouldn't be trying to push another
Variance.
265 square feet.
Chiseling at this point? Yes, understand, that's a good point, and yeah, you could reduce it from 1265 by 132 square
Well, I
feet.
mean, if it's not part of the garage, and if it's just part of the addition, I guess I'd rather see that number changed.
Sure.
That makes
133 square foot.
Oh, so what's that bring it to?
133, no, yeah, 133 square foot exception to ordinance number 8.
So that puts the variance to 1123? Did I do that right?
1133, yeah.
33, sorry.
So it's going to be 1,133 square feet
Yep.
versus 1,000 square feet.
I know this is, we've done a number of these in the township because of the circumstances with, next to open space, and so it's not quite out of the ordinary, I guess. As long as we keep that numbers somewhat as low as we can, again, we don't have someone coming back looking at it. Any other questions of Tom? Steve?
Oh, you waiting for me to do something?
No, I just,
No, I'm-
is the applicant here? You okay with what we just did? Okay, perfect. Just a numbers game.
So really, nothing is changing as far as that goes.
No.
No. All right, I'll make a motion. Based on the variance board, planning commission, and staff review and recommendation, approve the 14.6-foot right-of-way setback variance. And in accordance with the ordinance number 8, section 5-29.b, approve the construction of a garage exceeding 1,000 square feet in area.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, motion carries. You're on your way. All right, item 8D. Now we can do a white paper
There
makerspace.
you go.
Oh, boy.
You again, Tom?
Yep. All right. Yeah, White Bear Makerspace is a new business opened up right on the edge of the Little Addition near the corner of County Road J, Highway 61. They're set back behind the Bald Eagle Sports and the Holiday Station. And originally, when Zappa Sports was there, the owner of the property prior to the Landways and the Makerspace had a sign on the Holiday standard, primarily because they purchased that property from Holiday and were allowed that space as part of the negotiation. That was a franchisee store at that time. Now the corporate office has taken over ownership. I believe Landways approached them for space on the sign, but they are utilizing that for another ad and not interested. So Landways approached the adjacent property owner, Bald Eagle Station, or Bald Eagle Quick Stop, and he would allow them to put up a 4x6 simple wood sign on the property. But ordinance does not permit that. It says placement of signs need to be on a property. It can't be on an adjacent property or located elsewhere in the town. So this is what's being requested, is the town to allow an exception to that requirement, allowing them to put that sign right on the abutting property, and actually be kind of in front of the store there, but again, not on their particular property. So the Planning Commission reviewed this, recommended approval. In addition to that, there was a secondary request, and this is by the owner of the Bald Eagle Quick Stop, to consider allowing message board signs that flash a message more than once every 30 seconds, which is what the ordinance requires. They have a couple of message board signs, and they're hoping to change that part of the ordinance. Now, no recommendation from the Planning Commission on that. That part of it is going back for additional review at the June meeting, but they did make the recommendation to allow the makerspace sign on this property here.
So this sign is on the property, not in the road right away?
Correct. It will have to be 10 feet from the right-of-way, 10 feet from the property line to meet setback requirements.
Is this sign a monument, or what is this?
No, it's a fairly informal wood sign. You could call it a monument, but that'd be stretching it a little
But I
bit.
mean, is it, all
It'll be
we've
at
got is a
grade.
graphic, but is it on a, just state your name and your address if you want
Teresa Lenway, my address or the building, probably the
to.
building,
Your address,
3743 Thomas Court,
okay.
Benton's Heights.
Yeah, we've got that picture. I'm curious as
okay.
to how is it sitting on the ground? Is it on two posts?
No, it would be on 2 posts,
And how high off the ground?
not way high. I can't remember what he said. 2 by, You know, he doesn't really say, but they're on two 4x6, or they're on two 4x4 posts,
And what's the dimension of the sign?
4x6.
4x6.
There's no lighting on it, is there?
You know, it's unfortunate, I mean, that this occurred the way it has to occur, but you need this, you need signage.
Yeah.
It's not, it's hard to find without some signage,
Oh, yeah.
very much so.
And I'm sure Holiday would appreciate some traffic control so they don't have people wandering around in their lot looking for you too, so.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions, comments?
No,
I'm good.
Matt? All right, thank you.
I'll make a motion based on the planning commission and staff review and recommendations, approve the sign permit request at 5966 Highway 61 with the understanding that that sign as, I guess, laid out in the application does not change it, 4x6 sign.
I'll second that then.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on. Item 8E, Street Improvement 2019-3, the neighborhood meeting update. Is that you, Larry?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. We held a neighborhood meeting last Tuesday evening for the 2019 Street Improvement Project. It includes the streets of the Hobie area, Parkview Drive and Fenway Court, Weston Woods area, and White Bear Parkway, east of Oakmead. We had almost 30 people attend the meeting, and what was interesting about the meeting is at the beginning of the meeting I asked how many people came to the neighborhood meeting in February, and only one person raised their hand, so it was kind of a whole new group for that second neighborhood meeting for this project.
Well, that means you did a really good job explaining it to the first group.
Credit where credit is due, Larry.
Well, yeah, I don't know exactly what that means because I've never had that happen before, but it was a little bit different meeting, so I wanted to explain some of the things I went over in that first meeting about the overall pavement management program. So I spent a little more time than I was expecting to on the overall pavement management program and why these streets were selected. So after the presentation, we had a number of questions and discussion items, and just to give you, I put a memo in your packet regarding the highlights of that discussion. There were specific concerns in certain areas, replacement of curbing, limits of the work, drainage concerns, you know, kind of a description or reiteration of the mill and overlay process that we're proposing, and so going over that. There were three items that were kind of a little more, you know, talked about. One was truck traffic on White Bear Parkway. Their concern was that some truck traffic isn't patronizing the existing businesses on White Bear Parkway. It's kind of they're using White Bear Parkway as a shortcut. You know, and are they paying for the improvements? And certainly the people, the properties that are commercial, industrial on White Bear Parkway as a part of the project are paying their share according to their frontage along the project, but other trucks that are maneuvering through from other businesses in the community certainly aren't, and unless we had a toll system, you know, we wouldn't be able to do that. So we had a little bit of a discussion on that. In the future, when their streets are completed, for those other businesses that are driving through, they would certainly have to pay their share when they do their streets. White Bear Park was also built to a little higher standard in anticipation of more traffic. It is more of a collector route in and out of that area. It's a connection. So we had a bit of a discussion on that. Another item that was talked about was the accelerated degradation of certain roadways. If you recall, when we started this process in discussion last fall on pavement degradation, every street degrades a little bit differently depending on the traffic, the soils, the drainage we've talked a lot about. So certain streets we're proposing some improvements on some streets that are really only 13 years old, as early as 13 years old. So there's question about that, certainly. Again, every street degrades a little bit differently. The last item I wanted to talk about was a discussion on using an assessment amount that's equal across all different areas. There's, on the Hobie area, their improvements, they don't have curb and gutter, and there wouldn't be replacement of individual sections of curb and gutter. So there's a question about, well, our project is less involved and less expensive than the other projects. Shouldn't we be less than on our assessment? So there was some question about that.
All three of those are fair and reasonable, too. We just are expected as much.
Certainly, all areas, if we use the preliminary rate of 3,000 based on the numbers we've computed, every area is getting a break on their assessment. Certainly, there's going to be inequities between the individual projects. Each street is varying in width and improvements. So some areas might have more curb replacement than other areas, and it's just until you get into it, you don't know.
And when you say get into it, you're talking about
Actually doing the work. Yeah. There is some efficiency in doing all these projects together at once. So hopefully we get good bids, and it's there's just efficiencies by doing all these projects as one project versus doing them individually. So those are some talking points around some of those questions. Last thing I wanted to mention was tomorrow night at the public hearing, if the board chooses to officially order the project, that is a supermajority is needed for that, which is 4/5 votes to
Do that.
It's only three.
Unanimous, in other words.
not unanimous, in other words. So.
Well, thank you for carving that up for us.
So I can only pull 1.5 hands up?
So I just wanted to mention that. I mean, if I forget to mention it tomorrow. So
and staff is recommending that during discussion tomorrow that you, at least until the assessment period is finalized in September or October, that you still refer to the assessments as your preliminary assessments. We will adjust per our bid process if need be, and the township will either carry the burden of some risk if they go up by keeping a preliminary assessment fee flat, or gain some benefit if it's going to cost us less than what we thought. But you have the opportunity to adjust your assessment rates in September or October, even after approving the project, right?
yes, and property owners as a part of that process will have an assessment hearing, an opportunity to speak to you about their thoughts about the final assessment, whatever is decided by the board.
But for right now, we think you stick with preliminary.
I will reiterate, when you talk about preliminary, do as much as possible to define that so that they realize that that is for budgeting purposes for them as well as it is for us on what this might be. we don't have a better crystal ball without actual bids. But people lock in on a number. They think that's all it's going to be. And it needs to be reinforced, in my opinion. I sat at the meeting a week ago. They heard that number, they locked in immediately, and they think that is the number. And so whatever we can do on our websites, our news letters, anything else, preliminary is just that. Because we don't really know
That is our best guess.
at this time, yeah.
And again, it's different than past assessments.
Well, the other, because that is the big point, the people on Hobie up in that area, they weighed that in as, well, why is it equal? Why is it equal across the board? And there are a lot of reasons, you can live with that. But I think the other key on this is to talk in general terms about options on how it impacts an individual household, whether they pay it up front, they do it over time, and keep talking preliminary all the time, because that, as I've said in the past, we have lots of more mature households and newer households, and they need to understand how that impacts their livelihood from daily living, and this gives them a kind of a vision of where we think they're going to be.
There are a lot of moving parts still.
Yeah.
But we are starting to narrow it down.
Yep.
To get to the point of where we can make those types of decisions permanent. So.
Now, say, Larry, wherever you got your graphic for the first screen, keep that. Can't ask for a better one than the bear.
All right, so just to confirm, tomorrow at Otter Lake School at 6:30?
6:30.
Yes.
It will be cable cast.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Laura?
No, thank you.
All right, this is just informational, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
All right, any other questions, Larry, before we move on?
Did a good job.
Okay, item 8F, Portland Woods Storm Sewer. Who's handling this one?
Yes, I'm handling this one. So, every year the township undertakes certain storm sewer improvements throughout the community where deterioration has occurred or there's failing storm sewer systems in our community. The item before you is a storm sewer improvement, actually a correction of a failing system on Portland Woods. It's east of Portland Avenue between 3rd and Portland Woods. 3rd Street and Portland Woods. Currently a culvert is failing and public works staff have to pump water out of a pond because the culvert isn't draining. And so there's additional public works time involved with this area because of a failed system. The Utility Commission recommended this project at the May meeting for improvement. So tonight we are looking for approval of let me say it, authorizing preparation of plans and specifications and authorize advertisements for quotes for not to exceed amount of $2,900 for Portland Woods Storm Sewer Project, noting funding from the Stormwater Utility Fund.
Was this basically culvert work?
Yes. I should say that this is for the TKDA portion of studying the area, sizing the culvert, and going out for quotes. The project itself would be estimated at a $10,000 mark.
What do you got, Dale?
If I can add a little bit, so it's a driveway culvert provides driveway access for a twin home off of Portland Avenue, right in the Portland Woods area, north of Portland Woods Drive there. Anyways, some years ago, when they put the twin home in there, they extended the culvert to the south to accommodate the drainage of that ponding area, and they put a weir wall in. But evidently, at that time, the original pipe section that was there for a drive that had been there for, we're not entirely sure how long, that has eroded away.
Is it a
and
corrugated?
failed. What's that?
Is it a corrugated?
It's a
metal?
corrugated metal pipe, yeah. It's like an 18-inch corrugated metal pipe, so. The end that they extended looks really good, but it's the original pipe.
So there's no way to just jet it out?
Oh, we did try jetting. We got in, once we got beyond the newer section of pipe, it was going out in another place.
Oops.
So, we were trying everything to get it open. And
Okay.
just-
What's the time frame on, obviously we want to get this done this year yet?
Oh, definitely.
So Dale, on our lengthy list of utility storm water projects,
Yep.
is this in the top part, or is it named something differently? Because I'm not seeing it on the list.
Yeah, so this was added, Dale penciled in on the last meeting in May. It became more of a priority.
I guess
But I
missed
did
it.
have the number in there. I just penciled it.
Yeah.
So it outranked all the other ones that you had listed
Yes,
already?
because what we want to do is reduce, when we pump it, it takes about 8 hours to pump the thing out, public works time, and we've done it.
Okay,
Well,
all right.
the good news is the county was doing it originally, but when they figured out it was the town's culvert, we got
Well,
involved.
no, I'm not going to ask.
They were doing it but didn't send us the bill, right?
That's correct.
Perfect.
All right, any other questions of Larry or Dale? All right, it looks like we want two motions here. First one to authorize.
Oops, hang on.
Well, while he's finding it, I'll, based on the town engineer review and recommendation, authorize TKDA to prepare plans and specifications.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, second one is to authorize advertising.
Based on town engineer review and recommendations, authorize TKDA to advertise for quotes in an amount not to exceed $2,900 for the Portland Woods Storm Sewer Project, noting funding from the Storm Water Utility Fund.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, moving on. Item G, the 2019 I&I project.
That's mine. So in early in early May, I had brought to the board a quote to send out to contractors, and the board approved it, and I did email it to, so the scope of the project, I'll step back. Scope of the project is continuing on with the inspection and sealing of sanitary sewer pipe joints, particularly around the Bald Eagle area where we still have some vitreous clay pipe, but also check on the polyvinyl pipe, PVC pipe that we have out there too, that, there could be leaks in that potentially, so we'll be finishing up the original televising joint sealing that was identified in 2016, and then moving on to televise another area for potential I&I, which is just a good, doing a condition assessment via televising for the pipe sections. So I had my estimate, going forward, I sent those bid packages out to the three contractors who typically do in the region, do the pipe joint sealing and televising. And I did receive only one responsive bidder, and that was Ritter and Ritter. I did send it out to Visusur and HydroClean, who we've used in the past for different projects. I reached out to them after, I had talked to them prior to the bid being due, and then afterwards, and they, with the exception of HydroClean, I had, as I mentioned in my memo, had not followed up with my call to see why they didn't bid, and when they did call back this week, they said that because they don't have a 21-inch packer to seal a joint, we have a couple of 21-inch joints that need to be sealed, so they did not bid. I did talk directly with Visusur, and they are just booked out for the rest of the year. They're not even looking for work. They just took on a 50,000 foot joint sealing project. We got, with all the other projects, they said, we couldn't give you a bid. So he apologized for not calling, but. So the end result is we did advertise in the paper, the local legal section twice, on May 15th and 22nd. I did send out the 3 bid packages to the different aforementioned contractors, and Ritter was the only one with a responsive bid. It was a sealed bid, and when they were open on the just last Thursday. And they, the bid we got from Ritter is competitive when I compare it to the numbers of last year. So my recommendation is that we receive the bid and award it to the bid to Ritter Sewer Service for $32,275.
That was the question I was going to ask you. In comparison to the past, this is still in the ballpark with one bid? It's
For
hard
the
to-
per foot number in the joint ceiling, yeah, they're very competitive with the other two, against the other 2 bidders that did not provide it.
I know you mentioned the other 2 you had used in the past. I
Yep.
can't remember, Ritter and Ritter, have you used them?
Yeah, we used them last year.
Okay.
Yep. I'm sorry, thank you, but we have used them too.
So, just for my information, did we start this project a little later than last year? Or that we only had one bidder, or is there timing? Is timing everything on these projects?
Well, it just seems like, everybody's going. It's a busy year, and I think a lot of it's been magnified by the amount of groundwater that's out there right now. So I'm thinking there's a lot of deficiencies are being recognized right now. In fact, another township in the Southwest Metro is calling me about who we'd recommend. They had a service line that they needed work done on.
So, this is this year's project. How much more do we have to?
Well, we got about 50% of the system we've gone through televised, so we've got about 50% more to do yet. Now, will we have a lot joint ceiling with that? It'll be determined by the next round of televising that.
But with the televising, how much of that is the clay pipe versus the PVC?
On this particular project?
No, I mean township-wide. When you say we're only 50% done,
Yeah.
did you target like the clay
Yes.
pipe first?
Yes.
Are we almost done with that?
Yes, this is wrapping up the clay. So now we're just gonna move on, routine, check our existing system with PVC and concrete, reinforced concrete pipe, just to make, check that we don't have any leaks.
Theoretically, should be better condition, theoretically?
Theoretically, yes.
Okay.
Dale, is there a reason in your recommendations you're not more specific on the area? Or
Well, actually, I have a map. I didn't, I
Well,
probably
I
could.
guess just for the record,
Yeah.
we have to,
I can give a verbal on that area, so like I did on the original bid, when we approved the document for bidding. So the area is west of West Avenue, south of H2, east of Otter Lake, and north of the railroad tracks. That encompasses
all
the
right, well,
entire
that
project.
kind of clarifies a little bit, so,
Yeah, I apologize for not including that again in this memo. So, but
okay.
that is the description of the area.
All right, any other questions?
Nope.
Hearing none, looks like we want 2 separate motions, one to receive and one to award.
So I will say, based on Public Works Director review and recommendation, move to receive bid from Ritter and Ritter in the amount of $32,275.
Want a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And motion number 2, based on Public Works Director review and recommendation, award the contract to the low bidder, Ritter and Ritter, in the amount of $32,275, noting the funding from the Stormwater Utility Fund.
Want a second on that motion?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving on, item H. Oh, we can't do this one. This is the probationary period for our new town clerk treasurer. Do we just do thumbs up, thumbs down?
Approve or disapprove?
Does he have to sing or something?
Yeah, don't you have to get up and make a speech or something?
Look, you guys are tired of listening to me talk already.
Well, at least you're sitting now. When you were interviewed, you stood the
Yeah.
entire time. So. That's
All
an
right,
improvement.
I think through the whole process that we went through to replace Mr. Short, I don't think we could have hoped for anything better. I think you filled a good spot there, Mr. Patrick.
Thanks, Ed. You guys.
Well, I would be looking for a motion to disapprove everything I just said.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you there, Mr. Chair. Based on the town board review and recommendation and in accordance with section 3, employment, subsection F, probationary period of the township employee handbook, Patrick Christopherson is hereby appointed to township services as a full-time town clerk
You guys
treasurer.
are so mean.
Yeah.
I just had to breathe a little.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, next item, item I, the June executive meeting.
Now that I've gone through probation, I can ask for stuff now.
Good night.
So, I've got, the League of Minnesota Cities annual meeting is the 26th, 27th, 28th, and does not get out until until noon on the now scheduled, executive committee, which is the 28th. So I'm wondering if you'd be interested in moving it to the 21st. If not, I'll just have to cut out on the last few hours of that meeting.
Don't
Anybody have a
see-
conflict with that?
No, I'm open that day.
I'm fine.
Okay, I'm fine. I'm usually the one with the conflicts. So no, I'm
Really?
good.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
okay, I'm good.
Great. Thanks, folks.
All right, so we need a motion to reschedule.
I'll move to reschedule the meeting of June 28th to June 21st, executive meeting, due to the town clerk's conflict.
Do we have to put that?
That's what it says. I'm just
Official
reading.
minutes. I will second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion carries.
I didn't write this.
All right, we have a couple
We'll have
of
8 speakers.
added
Ooh.
agenda items. Item 9A, sprinkling in for West Woods.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we, Tom had this sent to him Friday? Today. Today. Pass it on, talked about it amongst staff, thought we would bring it for the board's attention sooner rather than later, just because of the distance, or the time between the two meetings this month. What you'll notice in your existing ordinance about, water conservation or, irrigation system management, the board does have the right to accommodate requests like this per ordinance. Your existence, it is split into 2 4-hour blocks, 6P to 10P and 6A to 10A. Weston Woods is requesting running straight from 10P to 6A for their sprinkling needs. If you'll see in the memo. Am I missing anything there, Tom? Is that it? Yep. Humidity detector.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not like all,
Would be, what have they done in the past? Have they always done the 6 AM to 10 AM and 6 PM to?
From their memo, it sounds like it, that's kind of that's their history. Yep.
Okay. Because I know that they spelled out quite a bit of why it's an issue and why they don't want to do it that way, and why it makes sense to go from 10 PM to 6 AM.
All this rain, I don't know why they're worried about it.
I don't know.
I mean, I read the memo personally. I've always thought and heard from people
Powers
I've
to
went, powers to be, that, you know, it's not good for the turf to be watering all night long. I personally think it's a bad precedent to change our policy. I'd leave it as is.
Tom, are you the watering expert? Well, it just seems a little strange to water 8 continuous hours.
it's because it's a complex with 130 units. It's not like they're all running all the time.
Right.
It's this zone, then this zone, but it's an 8-hour period where to go through all the zones. That's my understanding anyway. I believe there's a similar request coming from the Gilfillan Hills development, which is right next door.
I guess I'm not a grass expert, but I'm not even sure if it's good to be watering in the middle of the night. Seems to me, I always thought it was supposed to be dusk dawn type things to it's a better time for the grass to get moisture.
It allows the grass to dry out if it, in the daytime versus the night, and it gets mold, creates things they used to, kind of grass and mildew. I'm not a grass expert, other than that's what I've always been understanding, and I just think you're just opening Pandora's box by homeowner developments, homeowner associations. Next it'll be Three Oaks, next it'll be some other one. You're diluting our ordinance, and it's hard to monitor it.
I know we just got this tonight, but what is their rationale? Why does it have to be this way? I didn't get a chance to read all this.
Well,
Yep.
I think the main thing was that the way that they have their timer set up, it winds up being more efficient for them. They also list why it's a good idea because of evaporation and wind and
Yeah.
turf use during the day and so on. I found it interesting. I didn't understand some of this about unequal, odd, and even addresses, but White Bear Township is the only one in the area that requires daytime watering. Do we even know if that's true?
It's not necessarily true. There's other metro communities that have the similar watering ordinance.
it's Badness Heights has odd even watering, I think.
As far as daytime?
I believe the same hours.
Okay, so then that's not accurate.
Well, under supporting information, Ed, you'll see what they've cited there. Evaporation,
Yep, evaporation,
drifting
wind.
into, from the wind, loss.
The wind
of-
doesn't blow at night, huh?
Actually, it blows less. That's what the people that do my irrigation system tell me the same thing. We go from,
Every person can say loss of use turf areas, patios, and sidewalks during daytime watering windows.
we go 10 to 6 in our development too.
Yeah. 10 a.m., 10
No,
p.m.?
10 PM to 6 A. Which, Anoka County, yeah, I know.
I don't know, what's the pleasure of the board? I guess we got your feeling on it. Scott, how do you think about it?
I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I could be talked into either.
Is the wind blowing?
Sorry. I guess on the one hand, if it's been in place for a while and it's worked for a while, to make the change now, I'm not really seeing a compelling reason.
I guess my only concern, obviously, you're supposed to have moisture sensors, so you're not sprinkling when it's raining.
They do.
But
They do.
when they fail, how do we know? Because in the middle of the night, they're still sprinkling while it's raining. So there's no way to monitor this. I mean, at least during the somewhat of daylight hours, it's registering that, hey, your system's not working, correct? Because you are sprinkling and it's raining. Or the grass is wet, it shouldn't be. So there isn't a disadvantage of doing it at night when you can't monitor it, you can't see what's going on. I guess that's where I would be coming from.
I'd agree with that.
And again, like you say, it's worked this long for, I don't know how many years. I'm not sure if we need to really change it. I don't know if there's a compelling argument here.
I don't remember, when did Weston Woods, when was that created?
Oh, it's been a while.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years, okay, so for 20 years, they've been able to work around the daytime.
Yeah, and maybe they need to look at, explore the different water supplies and controller options that they have available. I mean, things get dated. There's more energy efficient things out there than currently. It's the easy answer to just say, change it. I think compliance is a challenge for us.
All right, Patrick, you want a formal motion for a denial on it? You up with that, Steve?
Sure. I'll make a motion to deny the special request to change the water ordinance as requested by Weston Woods.
Can I ask the board a question? Tom alluded to another request coming. I mean, do we want to make this kind of a blanket resolution that doesn't allow for deviation from existing ordinance? Or do you want to hear it case by case?
I don't know if it's gonna matter to me.
I think it's gonna matter. I think it's gonna increase the opportunities to have non-compliance, and I just stick with what we have unless we're going to change our ordinance in its entirety.
So you should probably word that as long as,
Is that a resolution then?
yeah, coincides with current or existent ordinance.
I'll change it to that effect, that I think the ordinance as is stated properly for our use, and pass a resolution that we're not entertaining other options at this time, or this board isn't. I don't know how to phrase it as such, like we did for the one-way discussion, but
Right.
similar conversation. That's what I'd like to see done.
Start with whereas the town board has an established ordinance regarding water conservation.
Whereas the established ordinance is based on, was considered and has a rational basis.
Therefore, be it resolved that the town board will not consider requests for irrigation system management outside existing ordinance.
Well, they drafted up your motion pretty well, didn't they?
I like that.
Oh, you're pretty good, Steve. You know, I had it.
Chad, do we need any finding of facts for this or not? We're staying with our ordinance?
You're staying with the ordinance, yeah, right. I don't think you need to.
Okay. A fine
I
motion.
think you've actually stated the facts.
Scott, you second?
I'll second that.
All right, motion's made, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 9B. I can't even read my own writing. Oh, the graduation party tent.
Use versus.
I got that one. That was something I was contacted earlier today about. We had some student planning a graduation party up at Mead Park, which is fine, does not require town board approval. Parks are used at a first-come, first-served basis. But they took a look at the long-term forecast, and it looks like rain on Saturday. And so they would like to put up a tent, possibly, if they need it. However, that requires a permit of approval by the town board to put a tent up in a park. So that's what they're requesting, is approval of a permit to put a tent in a town park. That would be just this Saturday for a graduation party. Obviously, they'll have to contact Go for One and things like that when they drive stakes, but we'll let them know, remind them of that requirement if this is approved. So, be a one-day only tent in the park.
Well, it says party from 3 to 7. When would the tent be up? Or
It
taken
might come
down?
in Friday. I don't know if they're renting it or not. It's not a huge tent. I think it's a
20 by 15?
Yeah, 15 by 20. So I don't know if they're hiring someone or if they have somebody with a tent. But typically, if they hire it out, they come in on a Friday,
Is there
take it down on a Monday.
an application form or anything?
There's
or is
not.
this kind of
This
just what we
is-
come up with?
Yeah, we just generally tell people first come, first serve basis. There is a shelter there. They're just looking at this as backup.
Sure.
Do you feel comfortable with this thing sitting up for the whole weekend if we get bad weather?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, there's insurance associated with
I was
this.
thinking hold harmless. and
Yeah, I was gonna
insurance
say all of
issues.
that, the insurance piece, that the township accepts no responsibility.
Yeah, when we
For that,
rent a
because-
tent, it's up all weekend, and that's just their business hours, how they do that, but they are responsible for it.
Okay.
Personally, I have no problem with it, with the caveat that the whole township is held harmless. That would be, see,
Yeah, could I?
Yeah.
Could I interrupt?
Something to consider.
Or add something? So the only concern I have, Tom, is that, are they staked or are they just weighted?
Don't know. but that's
Because
why
there are,
if
there
they're-
are, you know, they should call on locates if they're gonna drive stakes.
Exactly, that's what I said. Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
And they have to do that, if they're gonna pick up Friday, like, right away.
Quickly.
To get 2 days to mark, so,
We'll ask them
Yeah,
where the
to the-
location is proposed to, just so we know.
yeah.
Yeah,
location.
and we're providing no security, so. I mean, if they set it up on Friday and it disappears Friday night, that's,
Or if somebody else is camped out using it.
that's the risk they run in a public park, but,
That's true.
yeah. So I'd approve it.
All right, is that your motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the tent canopy request by Adele Harris for the graduation party of their daughter from 3 to 7 p.m., with the understanding that they may set it up earlier than that in Mead Park, but that they should be calling for locate service, and that the township, it's understanding that the township is being held harmless and no way responsible for damages.
I'll second that.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. That should be the end of our agenda.
I had 2 added items, Mr. Chair, if you'll recall.
I don't.
So we covered them.
Nope, I remember a water gremlin update.
Oh, what?
Just real quick, following up on 2 bills related directly to the water gremlin situation that the residents and the board would probably find interesting is, number 1, the bill that sought a statewide ban on TCE, which you know is the chemical that is being measured, being released into the atmosphere. The bill for that failed. They set aside funding to study further the impacts of TCE. That was the only thing that came from that.
That's part of the funding, I don't remember the amount for the tree trust and the water gremlin to go out and petition to get people to stop using it or not? It was a $4 million.
4.5.
Yeah, and then there was another 2 million, or no, $1 million or whatever for the tree trust, and for water gremlin to, I think they were gonna have a intern go out and promote non-usage of it. So is that coming out of that part of the funding?
No, the study funds are just going to be a line item set aside for the Department of Health to analyze and evaluate impact of TCE on the atmosphere.
State funds versus settlement funds.
Sounds like it.
Okay.
Then the other part of it, the other bill, the one that was going to officially legislate a stakeholder group that would have oversight of the penalty funds derived from the water gremlin settlement. That one failed as well. The Neighborhood Concerned Citizens Group is still functioning, but they have no mandate or statutory authority granted to them by the state regarding distribution of those penalty funds.
Well, they never really did, though.
They didn't in the first place. They were hoping that that was going to be the group that would be assigned that authority, and that did not happen. I do not and have not heard what is going to become of those funds. There were a variety of options that were on the table for them to be distributed. I do not have where they are headed for right now. But both of those bills failed.
So is that a done deal for the whole year then? It's done?
Yeah. I will, before the next meeting, I'll try to have some direction on where the funds have gone. Do you know, Chad? I don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
Just disappeared.
Follow the money.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, just thought I'd give you an update.
All right, I'm sure that's not gonna make a bunch of people happy. Is that it?
Yes.
All right. Item number 10, open time. Anyone, like to say something? Just state your name and address for us, please.
I'm Kiz Taylor, and I just recently moved to 5211 West Bald Eagle Boulevard. So I'm trying to get up to speed with what's going on in my new neighborhood. I did get a stack of paperwork from Mary Harrington from when she was active and participating in a lot of city things that were going on. So I feel like I was recently reading an article in the Pioneer Press, so I'm revisiting the one-way street thing. Everybody cringes. Because I'd like to get up to speed with that. I feel like being a new neighbor in the neighborhood, there's a lot of new people in there, and I feel like I do have concerns about it. And when I read through the documents from Bill Short, I think was the previous, I've got the entire documents from when they did studies from way back when and all sorts of material. And apparently, you know, they approved everything back then, but this is from 2001, so it's been an ongoing issue. I guess I'm wondering where I can find out the most information where we're at with that, because according to this article in the newspaper, which created concerns for me, was that I was reading, we're not doing any more about it. I mean, there were some phrases from you, Steve, that weren't all that appealing, like, is out of convenience that we're not, or, you know, or we're not discussing this anymore, so I'm out of the loop.
Sure.
So I would certainly like to hear a little bit more about
Well,
that.
the best, I guess, starting from where we are right now.
Yeah.
This board
Yeah.
passed a resolution stating that we no longer consider West Bald Eagle Boulevard, East Bald Eagle Boulevard an optional one-way. So we pretty much dropped the discussion on it. We are going to be doing that road next year.
Right.
So, and everything from H2 going north to County Road J will be done this year.
Right.
So when that portion is done, and the way they plan on doing it with narrower lanes, wider boulevards, better striping for bike and pedestrian, we're hoping that will be a better visual for the neighbors to the south of H2 to see when the road's done, how much more bike traffic friendly the road can be and still accommodate two-way bikes and pedestrians.
Okay, when you say widening the road.
Well,
what-
where they
what is-
can, they will widen the road. Or they're also gonna narrow the
Doesn't that
lane.
create an easement on other people's property, though?
No.
It's basically, if they can take area out of a right-of-way, which is still their road, they can make the road bigger. And they'll still stay in their right-of-way, not going into people's properties.
Understand the paved area takes up very little of the actual existing right-of-way that's been dedicated. When I say little, I mean we're talking about only 50% of the existing right-of-way is actually being used.
Which means there may be
For
60,
pedestrians?
No, for anyone, for any public purpose.
there may be 60 feet dedicated for the road. The road may be only using 25 or 30.
Yes.
So if where there's room, they can make it wider, still stay within the easement, which is their right. But when they do this also, they're gonna narrow the lanes a little bit, and
Okay.
that will also help make the road feel bigger, because now you'll have more striping for walking and biking on both sides.
I guess I'm sorry, I keep interrupting.
But that's our plan right now.
Okay. I missed the piece about narrowing the lanes.
Right.
Yes.
It's just a striping effect, but normally I believe they said 10 or 11 feet is a normal lane. And if they close it down to 10, that's
Okay.
2 10s, that saves you 2 feet, that adds that to the curbs. So that gives you more space on the side of the road. Plus, like I said, they've got more room going north on H2. That road, when it's done, they've got a little more flexibility. It gets a little narrower, obviously, going south. But there still are spots where they can make that road bigger.
Okay, so, but we're talking about H2, but I.
No, just north of H2, south of H2, on Bald Eagle Boulevard.
Okay, so I guess my concern still is the level of traffic that comes through there and the trucks and the speed. So if it's still a county road, nothing can be addressed with the speed?
Well, you're correct, but we've been very clear with residents that some of this is self-policing, and if there's speeding going on, as you said, we put up speed monitoring signs. They help some, narrowing will help some, but if they're still speeding, residents have to take it upon themselves to
How do I
notify
do
the
that?
sheriff's department.
To the police department?
Sheriff's Department.
Ramsey County Sheriff's.
So just, I should be,
Yes, and if you can get, you can do license numbers. I can tell you that they will follow up on that, but the sheriff's department is who does our policing for the township. Once it gets to the city, that's the city of White Bear Lake. But, public safety is still an item of concern for us, but I think what the chair said is that we're hoping that the vision south of H2 on the boulevard will come from what they see north of H2, where they told us they're gonna widen the shoulders to make it more access for families, friendly
people.
Yeah, I guess I don't see how that actually has any impact on the South Shore where I'm at on that corner. I see it, once again, as a cut-through from people that not wanting to go on Highway 61 because it's busy and it's an easy way for them to skate through to get to the freeway. And people constantly are blowing that stop sign. I've seen 2 accidents since I've moved there.
Wait, the stop sign at Summit?
Yes, so I mean, people are traveling very fast along there all the time.
We have, I mean, we've talked about decreasing the speed to 25. It takes a state petition, I believe. It's not something we can do. It's beyond our control. But that is something that we are still going to be discussing when they go to do the road. But if they're blowing signs, we could request the sheriff to start sitting them more often if you're seeing this.
Yeah.
Because this is the first I've heard of it. In fact, we did a check a while back, and I don't even know if there was been an accident in that area for, at least not reported for some time.
Well, there was one up on the corner of, there's 2 on the corner of Stillwater Street and Bald Eagle Avenue, because people come off of the corner there and just speed all the way up the road. You know, maybe there needs to be a stop sign on Stillwater Street, make that a 4-way, because, you know, they're pedal to the metal. They hardly stop around the corners to get to either way on that intersection. And it is a very high-traffic area for pedestrians, and
Have you seen the traffic counts?
I have them right in front of me here. So
But I think from comparing them they haven't changed a lot, they've been fairly
Right.
consistent. So it's not like we've generated more traffic, it just, I guess sometimes it just seems like it, but.
Well, I feel like I could imagine there's going to be some pushback with people not wanting the traffic in their neighborhood. I think I can see that being a problem. I also see that the lake is just one of the township's, you know, pristine things to keep. You know, that's an important thing. So in part of the road, because there's so much traffic there, I've taken pictures of the level of how many big trucks come through in just a single day, not to mention, you know, the number of buses and, I mean, heavy trucks. I don't know what kind of restriction there is on weight, but there's constantly heavy trucks that are using that road, and I don't know if there is a weight restriction or
Are we
not.
talking about delivery trucks like UPS?
Everything. I'm talking like heavy equipment stuff, and I've seen, I have pictures of them, if you don't, like people that have the dump trucks and stuff like that, so everybody is using that road for whatever they want to use it for.
Because that road is technically what do they call it, a collector or a commuter?
County State Aid Highway.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, and I know that when I looked at, and I don't know if there's a new assessment I looked at the 2010 projected plan. I don't know if there's a new one. There was a comprehensive 2010 plan.
Yes.
And when I read on there, on page 120, on the line, it basically said that currently used extensively by pedestrians and bike riders. And it continued to say the trail development should be coordinated with Ramsey County reconstruction and closure of one lane, creating a one-way. And that was your long-term extensive plan. So suddenly I'm hearing this from a newspaper article.
Well,
So-
that's been a little misconception.
I'm out of the loop.
But
and
no,
I'm
no,
just
I'm not
a
saying
new-
that. It's a misconception because that is an option. It's not that it was decided to do that. That was an option to us. It's not something that was cast in stone like we have to do.
Well, then I guess I'm not quite sure why suddenly we're not tabling this. To me, there's not a clear reason why suddenly you just decided that this isn't going to be a one-way street. Because everybody that signed a petition back when was in agreement and approval of this, and it never happened. I don't know why, other than the only thing I can think of is they were their petition said, well, we agreed to this one way to do it. So maybe that left the people's arms tied on the board because they had this petition and the only way they wanted to do it was one way. Otherwise, they don't want to do anything. So they opted for nothing. So everybody was in agreement on the whole, I mean, there were 600 people that signed this, you know, in agreement wanting to do this, and nothing happened. So now I'm moving in here and I'm thinking, okay, the roads are gonna get fixed, this is when it's gonna be planning, and then all of a sudden, why is this not a perfect opportunity to make this a plan? And have the county do this? I'm baffled now,
The thing is, the county has to do the road, period.
okay?
The county can only make the road so big, period.
But
Now,
why can't we
understood.
coordinate the county and the township to work together to make that plan?
I'm saying, the road can only built so wide. When it's built so wide, it can be striped any way we would like.
Right, okay.
What I'm saying too is, if for some reason, 5 years from now, a new board decides they want a one-way, all that road needs to be done is restriped, then the county will turn that road back over to the township.
Why are we waiting 5 years? This is being done next year. This has already been gone for 20.
Well, it's been discussed quite a bit over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes.
This
And
is not a new issue.
That's why I'm getting up to speed and I'm living on that corner. I don't think this issue is gonna go away. I think everybody wants that one-way street.
Well, I don't
that's
think
not
everybody
true.
does.
That's not
We,
true.
as a board, we
Then
get
what
inundated
is
with
the
all
argument?
kinds of requests not to do it, so,
Not to do it.
yes,
Correct.
absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
if this is out of convenience, I feel like if people can't drive a couple minutes to have a better, there's so much road grit and so much salt from overuse of that road, it's unbelievable. It's all going into the lake. So if you want to minimize the use of the lake and help the use of keeping the lake clean, I think you divert traffic. I think your long-term goal was spot on, and all of a sudden, I don't know where the pressure is coming from, but that's my 2 cents, and I feel like I need to make it today.
All right, well, we thank you for your input.
I appreciate you listening. I'll come back.
Okay. All right, item 11, I need a motion for receipt of agenda materials and supplements.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
we're adjourned at 9:18.